Well, I think it's important to realize that you can't expect to go at 100 miles an hour and then stop and drop down and go to sleep. You need to shift slowly into this different mode that you're getting into. So when I say power down, dim the lights, do some restorative yoga, listen to some, I'm a big fan of reggae music. If you think reggae music beats at about 60 beats a minute, it calms you down. And some classical music will too. So, and your body entrains at that beat. So it's actually really calming and good for you. So listen to some Bob Marley. Have a hot bath, because when you have a hot bath and you come out, then your internal temperature drops as well. So just get ready. Just let go of all the crap that happened during the day. I think it's important to have that shift into a slower, calmer state. I think you'll sleep much better.
Hello, Better Together with Maria Menounos fans. It's not Maria Menounos. It's Mr. Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, subbing in for my beautiful and talented wife. And today we're going to talk about, really how bad it is to not sleep, but how great it can be if you do sleep, and then how to get that great sleep that you need. I know it's going to sound cliche, but when you hear from our guest and the book that he has coming out, you're going to really be kind of blown away, as I am, and realize, a lot of the blind spots you have in your life are probably coming from the fact that, right, Kelsey?
Oh, 100%.
That you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Let's start with our quote of the day, Kelsey.
Let's do it.
All right. Routinely sleeping less than 7 hours per night can lead to the development of a number of chronic illnesses like diabetes, depression, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. So cleaning up your sleep act should be your number one job for anyone looking to upgrade their health. And that is from Dr. Frank Lipman, who is a friend of our show, who we've had on before. A little more about Dr. Lipman. Dr. Frank Lipman is a best-selling author, doctor, and leader in functional medicine with a focus on what he calls good medicine, an appropriate blending of cutting-edge modern medicine with age-old healing techniques from the East. He aims to collaborate with his patients and to create a unique and specific personal health care plan for each of them. And for almost 40 years, Dr. Lipman has helped thousands of patients feel and look healthier, like Kelsey, whose stomach he's helping.
Yes,
and bless
Dr. Lipman.
Bless Dr. Lipman for this decade-old problem poor Kelsey's dealing with. Today, Dr. Lipman is going to help us learn how and why we need to sleep better with groundbreaking information on the subject too many of us struggle with. The Heal Squad and Better Together are so excited to welcome Dr. Frank Lipman. Dr. Lipman, thank you so much for being on the show and for helping Kelsey. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I will tell you, doctor, we all know it's cliche. You got to sleep more. You have to sleep more. You have to sleep more. And then on the other hand, we all complain of, I think, problems with anxiety and depression. Diabetes is on the rise, weight loss issues, and then, of course, gut health, which we've had you on before. Tell me how profoundly sleep affects all of those things.
Well, probably the most important thing to remember is sleep is not a passive time. There's a lot happening in your body when you're sleeping. And if you don't get those, if you don't get sleep, you don't get enough sleep, those critical functions of your body are not going to perform properly. Let's just take a couple of examples. When you're sleeping, your body is not sleeping, your body is repairing. When you're sleeping, your body it's like a self-cleansing mechanism. So, the metaphor that I use is if you have a party and you leave the mess out at night and you wake up in the morning, there's a mess and you don't clean up the mess, and the next morning the mess gets bigger and bigger. That's what's happening in your brain and your body in general if you don't sleep, because there's a specific it's called the glymphatic system. It's a specific system in the brain that cleanses out all the molecules that are being used, that your body's used during the day, and that break down products and their metabolites. At night, you have the system that cleans out those chemicals and proteins from your brain. And if you don't clean that out, over time, this mess builds up, and over time, it can lead to cognitive problems and even Alzheimer's disease. So that's just one example of what's happening in your body when you're sleeping. So sleeping, it's not, you can't see it as just this passive time that you don't have enough time for. It's a critical part of your day, or critical functions of your body are occurring when you're sleeping.
Are you talking the book? And by the way, the title of the book for anyone is Better Sleep, Better You. I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. And by the way, Dr. Lipman's other books, but today especially this book on sleep. You talk about sleep rhythm. Can you define for us what sleep rhythm is?
Sure. So sleep is your primary rhythm. I think, we are rhythmic beings. We are microcosms of the macrocosm, which is the earth, which is our world. And the primary rhythms of the earth are night and day. And so sleep and being awake are your primary rhythms. So when that primary rhythm is off, when sleep is off, it's going to affect all your other body rhythms. Although sleep and being awake are your primary rhythms, your body has, multiple rhythms. Your heart, there's a rhythm in the heart, in the lungs, your digestion, all your organ systems have a rhythm. So when that primary rhythm goes off, everything goes off. The metaphor I always use, it's like if that rhythm is off, it's like swimming upstream. You should be, getting in the water and it's, not even trying to swim. If you're swimming downstream, it's pretty easy. Everything's moving smoothly. But if your rhythms are off, and particularly your sleep is off, everything's going to feel like you're swimming upstream. Everything's going to be harder. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to wake up, tired. You're not going to have the same energy. You're going to have some brain fog. You're going to have some aches and pains. And over time, these things will get worse and worse. So it's really important to get that key rhythm back into gear. And it's not as difficult as most people think.
And can you, it's almost like forewarning us, but can you tell us some of the things that occur? And I touched on it at the top here, when I'm only getting, 4 or 5 hours of sleep, or my sleep is highly interrupted. So if I'm getting maybe 6 hours, but every hour and a half I'm waking up. I mean, can you tell me some of the detriments involved with that?
Sure. Well, I think it's important that, especially as we get older, we are going to wake up more often during our sleep. Don't expect to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and wake up at 6 o'clock and without waking up. When you're younger, that, can happen. And if you're lucky when you're older, but, if you're waking up, once, twice, even 3 times, whatever, at night, and you're able to go back to sleep easily, then I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. The problem becomes an issue if you're waking up and you can't go back to sleep. But if you're waking up 2 or 3 times at night, not that it's ideal, but if you're going back to sleep quite easily, not a problem. But what happens over time, the sleep deficit issue builds up, and think of it as a problem upstream, and then downstream it can cause all sorts of problems, whether it's going to be more prone to heart disease, diabetes, obesity, cognitive issues, and even Alzheimer's disease. And it's going to affect every organ of your body, because once again, when theoretically, sleep is where you're spending almost a third of your time. So sleep is a crucial function, or crucial functions of the body are happening when you're asleep. So you've got to take it seriously. So it just stands to reason. It's not that I want to scare people, but I think people need to be aware that they need to take sleep seriously.
Yeah. And, doctor, I've always said, again, not a doctor, just a regular guy here, but one of the things I have found is the best home remedy to so many ailments, whether it's a sprained ankle or a common cold, has been sleep.
Yes, that's quite correct. And I think the corollary. Anyway, there is. I know for myself, and it happens with a lot of my patients, if we don't sleep well for a few nights, then we tend to get a cold, or we're more prone to get sick. So yes, when you're sleeping, that's when your body is healing and repairing. So if you're not sleeping well, An injury from something you did during the day is not going to heal as well. If you're not sleeping well, you're going to be more prone to get sick. So yes, getting not only one good night's sleep, but if you're getting good night's sleep regularly, I think that's probably one of the most powerful things you can do for your health.
I love in the book, you talk about not sleeping types. And by the way, there's a great quiz in the book too, and about the 5 types of non-sleep. But can we talk about the 5 different types of non-sleep, meaning some of the factors that are getting in our way to prevent us from sleeping?
Sure. So why I came up with those 5 types or questionnaire, because there's so many factors that affect our sleep that we can actually adjust and deal with and get better sleep. So not everyone is the same. Some people are going to be more stressed out. So the 5 types are stress. So someone who's got a lot of stress and anxiety, that's a primary issue with sleep. Another type would be a rhythm problem. So someone who is sitting under artificial light at night and not getting enough natural light during the day, or someone who's going to sleep at 12 o'clock one night and 8 o'clock the next night. So that's more of a rhythm problem. It can also be environmental problem. If there's, I saw a dog there. I wonder who's sleeping with a dog. A dog can, or a partner who snores, or noise from a neighbor, whatever it is. So it can be an environmental issue. Could be hormonal. I mean, women, especially women around menopause in particular, but men as well, can be a hormonal issue. So what have I talked about? The stress.
And then nutrition, I believe.
And then the last part would be, thank you, the last issue that I thought, I should discuss or put a questionnaire there so people can see where they fit in is if you're eating crap or your microbiome, Kelsey's was off, that's going to affect your sleep, because when there's an imbalance in the bacteria in your gut, some of those bad bugs can release metabolites, which then can leak through the gut wall and create sleep problems too. So diet and the health of your microbiome is another factor with sleep. So there's, the point about sleep, there are many, many different factors that can affect it. And if you can try pinpoint what your main issues are and then target those, the chances are you'll get better sleep. And that's why I came up with the 5 non-sleep types or no sleep types.
And so, when we talk about, with these 5 things, we talk about nutrition. There's certain things you recommend in terms of, when to stop eating, maybe before bed. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. So you want, if you're eating too late, your body needs to process that food. You don't want the energy that your body's going to need to affect all these changes that are happening during sleep to have to work on your digestion at the time. You want to have digested all your food and that whole digestive process to be finished by the time you go to sleep. You don't want that energy taken away from those really key areas or key processes that are happening during sleep. So, having to digest your food is going to take your body away from that. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, when you, depending what you're eating as well, there's different hormones are released or cascades of hormones are released with different foods. That's going to affect your sleep as well. And lastly, I think I put it in this area. I can't remember anymore. But, what's really helpful for the microbiome and then helpful for sleep is fasting. So, eating dinner earlier and breakfast later will help your weight, will help your sugar metabolism, will help with all sorts of diseases, and will actually also help with sleep.
So when you say fasting, okay, let's say I have my breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning. Are you saying to fast until 6 o'clock at night, then have my dinner? Is that something that would be effective? Is that what you mean?
I'm saying rather the easiest way to fast is to fast overnight because
Okay.
you're not going to be so. I say eat dinner, let's say by 6 o'clock, and then your breakfast when you break your fast is like 10 o'clock. So that's like 16 hours where your body is not eating, and that length of time triggers in a lot of these cleansing mechanisms, these natural cleansing mechanisms of the body. So I'm a big fan for, not for you it would be good, for Kelsey not. Generally, or it may actually be helpful for her now, but generally women of childbearing age, there may be some problems with fasting or long periods of not eating. It can be a problem. But for old fogies like us, fasting generally is really good, not only for sleep, but for aging in general.
And that's tangible. I mean, I think that is doable. That's why I like hearing that. I think that's a goal we can all set.
Right. What I try to do in all my books is try to give people doable tips. I try and take complicated information and make it accessible for people and show them that it's not that difficult. That's what we try to do in the sleep book. I mean, sleep's very complicated and can be very scary. And, so many people struggle with sleep, but it actually doesn't have to be that complicated and scary. And if you can sort of nail in where your weak areas are you going to bed at all different times? Are you not getting enough natural light during the day? Are you sitting under artificial light during the day and at night so your body doesn't know it's dark? So there are all these issues that one can address that are not that difficult.
And we've talked about, or at least I've heard it when Maria's interviewed you on other episodes. But to find out what foods are agreeing or not agreeing with your body, do you recommend a basic microbiome test that anyone can take to know what foods we can eat that will help with our sleep or take away from it?
Well, I don't tend to do microbiome testing for sleep, to be quite honest. The microbiome tests can be helpful, and they're getting better and better, as Kelsey will attest to. But they can be expensive too. I don't think one needs to do a microbiome test to help you sleep. I think there are more simple things one can do. But I do use one particular microbiome test I use. It's called the Gut Zoomer. But it's $400. That's a lot of money. So it's not something I just use. But I think for sleep, that would not be at the top of my list of my recommendations.
Gotcha. And then, when let's talk about some of the things in the environment that we can do to affect for good sleep.
So probably the most important thing would be to darken the room as much as possible. Any little bit of light can affect your body's own production of melatonin, which is the hormone that is your main sleep hormone. So if you can't darken your room completely, get an eye mask, because it's important to realize if your room is not dark, it's much harder for your body to produce melatonin. If your body's not going to produce melatonin, it's going to be harder for you to sleep. So having a dark room is really important. Having a cold room is as important as well. Having it at temperature of 67 max would be important because you're going to sleep better when it's cold. Trying to get noise, if there's noise on the street, then just get a noise machine. But anything that's going to affect, or get some earplugs, anything that's going to affect your sleep like that, light, noise, temperature, all are important environmental factors. And then the dog and pets. I mean, I actually am lucky. We actually, our daughter's dog sleeps over a lot, and she sleeps like a log. So I'll admit that she sleeps on the bed, but sometimes it's probably not the best thing to have a dog on the bed.
We have that problem too.
Winnie sleeps pretty well, though, I have to say.
You're lucky, Winnie.
If a dog sleeps well on the bed, it's not a problem. But I mean, if a dog's going to, affect your sleep, it's a problem. And, I have so many, in particular, women patients who complain of their husband snoring.
Yeah.
I think that's a common issue. So snoring comes up a lot as a problem, the spouse snoring.
Yeah. So what do you do with that?
Well, there are a couple of, snoring, when you think of it, is just airway not going through this channel smoothly. So if someone's overweight, sometimes losing weight can be helpful. Sometimes just lifting up the pillow a little bit, so changing the angle of the sleep can be helpful. But I mean, if someone's snoring and they're waking up suddenly, or the snoring is really bad, it also may be a sign of something more serious like sleep apnea. So they may need to get a sleep test to just check that out if someone's snoring really bad, because that can be really detrimental to one's health if you have sleep apnea, because that means you're waking up at night gasping and it's affecting your breathing and how much oxygen you're getting in. So snoring can be a simple fix by just tilting up the pillow. In fact, some of those smart beds, that's what they do. And they hear someone snoring, they just raise the top of the bed. But that can be really, really helpful, getting these nose strips. But probably what I'd say the two most common factors that I've seen help snoring are avoiding foods that create mucus for those particular people and losing weight.
Wow. And would you say for the person who does snore, because I tell you, my wife will poke me when I'm snoring.
Yeah.
And it stinks because I'm feeling like I'm falling into the deepest sleep. So when you are the snorer, and let's say you don't have sleep apnea and you're not overweight, if I'm snoring, am I not getting the deepest sleep?
No, not necessarily the case. And there are actually now these sleep gadgets like the Oura Ring that I have on that can tell you that's not necessarily the case. What happened, I'll tell you, a good example, I am a perfect example. I'm the same as you. I'm not overweight, and my wife used to bump me with snoring. And when I started getting into the research and looking into things to do for the book, I found this simple trick, which I couldn't believe took me so long to realize. Just changing the angle. I said, use another pillow. And when you think of it, it's just common sense. Sleep is just this airflow going through this, your pipe. So if you change the angle a bit, there's less friction and there's less snoring. So something like that, it can be very simple and can be very helpful. When you opening up, that's what these nasal strips do. They open up, if the problem is here. But if the problem's lower down, just changing the angle can be very helpful with snoring.
Easy. And let's back up a little bit. And you mentioned these Sleep IQ beds. I'm starting to see more of them. And some of these beds that have a snoring position, they actually are tracking how you're sleeping, good or bad. Do you have any information about those? Do you use one of those, doctor?
Well, I don't use a mattress. I do use a sleep tracker, an Oura Ring. I'm not sure about sleep trackers yet. I think they help maybe with patterns. I like my Oura Ring.
So your Oura, it's called an Oura Ring?
Oura.
Okay.
So you wear it on your finger.
Okay.
And it tracks a couple of things. It tracks your REM sleep, your deep sleep, how quickly you fall asleep. It tracks heart rate variability, which is a whole nother measurement for health and fitness. But I'm not 100% sure how accurate. I mean, I think they're helpful, especially for patterns. So how I've found it helpful, that I find that if I eat earlier, I tend to sleep better. If I try not to have too much sugar, but like last night, I hardly ever have fries, but I had fries last night. I didn't sleep as well. So if I have too much sugar, fries being turned into sugar, it affects my sleep. If I'm dehydrated, which is not uncommon, it affects my sleep. mean, most people know alcohol will affect their sleep.
Yeah.
So there are little things that, you can track. So that's why I like some of these sleep trackers. I know that, if I feel that I'm a bit stressed or I just have a sense that I'm going to be thinking about a lot of things at night, and so I'll take CBD, which can help sleep as well. So I use my tracker to see what is affecting my sleep. So I think that's where they're most helpful.
Yeah, and you mentioned CBD because in the book it talks about, and I'd like to think people know this, that alcohol and sleeping pills are a short-term solution, but you'll fall asleep, but you're not going to get a deep sleep. You'll probably be woken up many times through the night, so you're not going to get the right sleep you need. But you do say, with the exception of CBD, that CBD could be okay. If you have all these other type of non-sleeps kind of in your best control. Can you speak to that? Can you speak to CBD?
Yeah, well, alcohol. Well, a lot of people use alcohol for sleep, and alcohol will help you fall asleep. But then you wake up in the middle of the night and it's a problem. So alcohol is probably one of the worst things and one of the commonest problems that I see people making with sleep, using alcohol to help them sleep, because they helps people fall asleep, but then after that it's a problem. Sleeping pills are just bad news. I think it's the next opioid problem. I think sleeping pills have terrible side effects. They're addictive. I don't recommend them unless very occasionally for short-term use. But unfortunately, most people don't use them for short-term use.
Right.
Now, CBD, which used to be, although now in New York you can get CBD and pot is legal. CBD is legal everywhere. CBD and often a little bit of THC can be incredibly helpful for sleep. It seems to calm down the nervous system, and there's particular strains of CBD, actually one CBN, so it's slightly different to CBD, can be particularly helpful for sleep too. Some THC strains can also be helpful. So working with someone who really understands CBD and THC and finding what works for you and the right dosage can, I found that to be incredibly helpful for people.
You also talk about chronotypes, and I love this. You're either an owl, a lark, or a hummingbird.
Right.
Can you tell me about those chronotypes?
Yeah, so most people know people who wake up early and are wide awake at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm one of those people. Or people who can only get to bed at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and have to sleep till 10 or 11 o'clock, whatever, the next morning. So a lark is someone like me who gets up early and is wide awake and is really good in the earlier part of the day and is not as good in the later part of the day. That works well for our culture. Whereas an owl, who is like much more awake at night, does most of their best work late afternoon into the evening and only goes to bed late. And the morning, it takes them a while to get going. They wake up late and it takes them a while to get going. That's an owl, which is harder in this culture to be an owl. And probably about 20% of people are larks, 20% of people are owls, and the rest of people are these hummingbirds, which is some mixture of the two. And it can be difficult for an owl to function well in our culture because, especially for kids, and kids are also kids tend to be have more of that owl chronotype, although that changes. They find it hard. Many kids in particular and adults find it very hard to get up early in the morning and function early in the day. So it may not be because they're lazy. It may just be part of, what chronotype they are. Can
you shift your chronotype, Dr.
Yes,
Lipman?
you can. Great question.
Thank you. I would like to do that.
Slowly. You can. So the way you do it is if you're an owl and you usually go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think what you try to do is go to sleep an hour early at 1 o'clock for a few days and then 12 o'clock, and slowly over a week or 2 or even 3, depends how you adjust, just try shift your sleep from going to bed at 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So you can, although, it takes a while and may not be that easy, but you can.
All right.
It's funny when I found when I was, up to about 23, 24, if I didn't sleep, I had severe headaches, and I realized because my meeting with people like you, doctor, that your body's still growing, and so it's really hard. Can we talk about jumping around a little bit? Can we talk about some of the recommended sleep types for different ages? Maybe starting with teens.
Well, it's very difficult. I mean, I think you got to sort of put the context in place here and the culture and the fact that teens are resistant. So I definitely don't have the answer to teen problems and teen sleep problems, except to say that maybe starting school every day at 8:00 is probably not the best thing for teens. Yeah. Ideally, if they could start a little bit later, they'd probably function better and have less problems. How are you going to, teens are going to rebel, and how are you going to get a teen to, if it's not going to work telling them to go to bed at 9:00 at night. So I don't know what the answer is, except to say, if we could shift the day, the school day a little bit, I think it would do a lot of good for society and for kids in general.
Yeah, well, and also just hearing that allows us to have more empathy and compassion for the child. So we're not saying you're lazy, you're this, exactly. We can go, okay, I get it. I get where.
Exactly. I think that's important because it's, a lot of the time it's not because they're lazy. It's just because their whole body clock just can't function at the way we are forcing them to function.
It's funny. I have here in my notes about how you can heal your microbiome, because I know we were talking about the gut health and how it relates to sleep. But can we talk about some of the things that we can eat? Because you had mentioned French fries and sugar.
Sugar and starches are bad news. The worst thing, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going to have them, are they recommended earlier in the day?
I would, yeah, because it is going to affect your sleep. Yeah, I'm not recommending it, but yes, absolutely, yeah.
And so what are some of the foods that would promote good sleep, let's say?
Well, I think it's less about foods that promote good sleep, to be quite honest. I mean, everyone talks about turkey and, tryptophan. I'm not sure that makes a big difference, to be quite honest. I think it's what you avoid at night and how late you're eating. I mean, is probably more important. Avoid alcohol. If you are going to drink alcohol, I wouldn't drink after 6 or 7, the latest. I try, as you point out, have the sugar and starches. If you're going to have them, I'm not recommending them. Have them earlier. It's interesting. Some people actually do just fine with having some carbohydrates at night. For instance, I don't. I think everyone's a little bit different. I do much better just having my protein and vegetables at night. And I do much better, like most people, eating much earlier than later. And, these are, the culture is such, we go out for dinner and, you're sleeping, you're going out for dinner, you're finishing dinner at 10, 11 o'clock. So I don't know how that works. I know in Europe, people eat later. I mean, their whole rhythm is different. They tend to have the siesta in the afternoon. So they've sort of adjusted to that. I remember being in Barcelona once and being told they only start dinner later. And my wife and I sort of thought, okay, we're going to have a sleep at 5 o'clock or whatever. And we're going to go to dinner late at 9 o'clock. And they were only opening at like 10:30 or 11. So I think, I think a lot of this has to do with culture too.
Yeah.
I think, the rhythm of a particular place. But I think in general, eating earlier is really good for your body and for your sleep.
And I think the speaking of the rhythm of our country, it's been so much just rat race, chase your tail. I know from my own life, but what I've seen around me, it's like more, do, pushing more.
Right.
And then when I've gone to Greece and Italy and those places, it's just been like, you Americans are crazy. we don't work like that over here. For us, we see work in a different way. At least those cultures that I went to. I wonder if the pandemic isn't changing that for people, where it's forcing us to be at home and hopefully to be more mindful of sleep and less mindful of the rat race.
I think it has. I do think that's one of the positive takeaways that I've seen anyway. People have realized that they don't have to be caught up as much in like go, more. And they've come to realize and enjoy spending more time at home with their families, and not sort of being on this treadmill all the time. So I think that has been one of the positive aspects of the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, I hate saying that, but I do feel that a lot of people have realized that a slower pace is better for them.
You mentioned something about how they have the siestas over in Europe. I had a grandfather who lived a long life. Unfortunately, he got hepatitis C from a bad blood transfusion. But I always tell my mom, if that didn't happen, this was like 30 years ago, he would have made it to 100. But one thing he did every day is he worked construction, but he would come home at, he'd work 7 to 3, and he would come home, and I think at like between 4 and 5, he had a nap every day. And I don't know. And like I've seen with Kelsey, there's been moments. My wife won't. She just keeps pushing and pushing. I don't sleep very good at night, doctor, but I will say that when I'm tired, I just say, okay, I'm gonna meditate and more than likely conk out for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes a little longer. But can you speak to the benefits?
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of napping, to be quite honest. I just think, unfortunately, it doesn't fit as well into our culture as it does into other cultures. But I do think napping can be incredibly helpful, and I think it's a really good habit if you can do it. I'm a big fan of, we mentioned in the book, it wasn't my idea, but I do talk about it in the book. It's called a nappuccino. You have a cup of coffee before you go and have a nap, and then when you wake up, you're wide awake. But I mean, that is sort of a bit of a joke, but it's a nice thing to do. But I do think the concept of a nap is one of those things that I think would be really good. I mean, because most people's energy dips around that time. And instead of grabbing some sugar or having another cup of coffee, having a 20-minute nap can be incredibly helpful. I actually think napping is a really good habit and has a lot of positive effects. So, people who nap don't seem to need as much sleep at night as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's become something I'm doing more, and I agree. I think more people. I know at Google they have nap pods for their employees. Yep. I was trying to put it in at my studio. We would have couches in our studios, and I would always say, "No, just go." Go and in whatever 20 minutes, you're going to feel much better.
Yeah, you just need 20 minutes, and if you can get into that habit, it's a really good. I think it's a very good habit. Yeah.
So you also talk about syncing with the sun.
Mm.
Yeah, it's this whole concept of rhythm of day and night. I mean, at night you need darkness, during the day you need light. So most of us don't get enough natural light during the day. And one of my favorite tips for sleep at night is to go out and get some natural light first thing in the day. It gets better, as I say, that day and night are your rhythm makers, and melatonin and cortisol are your rhythm keepers. So melatonin is what's secreted at night, and cortisol is what's secreted during the day. So one of the best tips one of the best things you can do for your sleep at night is actually, if you can, meditate first thing in the morning, and then go get outside, get some natural light, go for a walk. That's really, really helpful because that helps you get in sync with nature's rhythms. That's what I talk about, get in sync with the sun. So, the more you can get in sync with those natural rhythms, the more your body's own rhythms are going to get in sync.
And so, what do we recommend for people in cold weather climates where it's limited sunlight for them? What do you think of the artificial lights that you can buy that supposedly make?
Yeah, I think those are much healthier. You mean the lights that have the same spectrum as natural light? Yeah, I think if you're going to be sitting under artificial lights all day, that's much, much healthier to do that. Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a pretty easy investment and pretty cost effective. You can get them on Amazon. And then what do we do with the people that unfortunately work nights? So we've got obviously people.
That's a problem,
right? And doctor, it's a really big problem because most of this next generation, for example, in Hollywood, most of the influencers that I know, they work all night long. They work really hard, but they're working all night long, and then they sleep until whenever. But I can see. I wonder how healthy that is.
It's not healthy. I think it's a big. There are more and more stuff. I mean, I don't know what the solution is because there are shift workers who have to work at night. And I really, I think we mentioned it in the book, but I don't know what the solution is, but there are more and more studies showing that, people who work these night shifts, have poorer health outcomes. So it's a problem. And I don't know what the solution to that is.
That's a tough one. Can we talk about the powering down process? So we're about to go to bed at nighttime, and you talk about in the book of the steps you can take to, quote, power your body down to prep for the best night's sleep ahead.
Right. Well, I think it's important to realize that you can't expect to go at 100 miles an hour and then stop and drop down and go to sleep. You need to shift slowly into this different mode that you're getting into. So when I say power down, dim the lights, do some restorative yoga, listen to some, I'm a big fan of reggae music. If you think of reggae music beats at about 60 beats a minute, it calms you down. And some classical music will too. So, and your body entrains at that beat. So it's actually really calming and good for you. So listen to some Bob Marley, have a hot bath, because when you have a hot bath and you come out, then your internal temperature drops as well. So, just get ready. Just, let go of all the crap that happened during the day. I think it's important to have that shift into a slower, calmer state. I think you'll sleep much better.
And obviously, many of us, I'm one of them, probably watching TV right before bed, not the best idea.
Right. I call it an electronic sundown. So it's a good idea to, switch off the TV, all your electronics a good hour or two before you go to bed. Is it realistic? Well, I don't know if it's realistic for a lot of people, but it is helpful. Some people tell me that they fall asleep in front of the TV and they find it actually quite relaxing. But yeah, I think all that blue light and the stimulating light is probably not a good thing. So find other ways to just calm down your nervous system.
Does it make a difference what you're watching? If you're watching a light comedy versus a very deep drama or a documentary on serial killers?
Yeah.
Well, to a certain extent, because if you're going to sleep anxious or angry, it's going to stimulate your whole stress response. So that stress response is going to stimulate your cortisol, that hormone we talked about that should be secreted in the day, in the morning. So yes, that can absolutely affect your sleep. Yeah.
One of the tips that I do, Doc, this has been going on literally since I was 7. I would listen to the radio as a kid, going to bed. So now it's podcast. But what I do is I'll set the timer on the podcast for about 10 minutes and I will make sure it shuts off and I'm out. But I know that if the nights I have accidents and don't set the timer and it stays on, I am not getting a restful sleep because my brain is still working, trying to process this information coming in. Is that accurate?
Possibly, it could be. I mean, I think I like the idea of listening to something before you go to sleep rather than watching. As long as you're not listening to something that's going to sort of activate your brain. I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
And then can we talk about dreaming? Because sometimes I've used dreaming as a way to know that I slept, because sometimes I don't know. I'll be like, I didn't sleep. And my wife will say, you were snoring. But a lot of times, if I know I dreamt about something, I at least know I got some kind of sleep. But can you talk about the role of dreaming in healthy sleep?
Sure. Well, dreaming, a lot of people don't remember their dreams, but most of us are dreaming. Not all of us, but most of us are dreaming, even if you don't remember your dreams. When you dream, if dreaming is a way of sort of storing these memories. And it usually, most of the dreaming usually happens in your REM sleep as opposed to your non-REM sleep. So in your REM sleep, you want it to be at least 1.5 hours of your sleep, a good 20% of your sleep. So, ideally even more. So, you can track it. If you don't remember your dreams, you can, the trackers do measure your REM, your REM sleep. Once again, everything that happens in our body happens for a reason. We had this, for instance, we were talking about the microbiome. We had this idea that if you had a pain in the lower abdomen, you just took out the appendix because there's no function. The appendix, doesn't play an important role in your body. Now we realize that the appendix is a place where a lot of these good bacteria are stored. So, all these years we're just taking people's appendices out for all the wrong reasons.
And Kelsey's was removed, right? Mm. Kelsey, yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Do you see? I know it's a sidestep here, Doc, but is there a correlation between?
Yeah, well, Kelsey's got a couple of correlations, but that could be one of them. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But in the same light, I think dreaming is, important things are happening during dreaming, in particular, the storage of memory. Dreaming is a tough one, because I'd say most people, or a lot of people, don't even remember their dreams. And then you don't want people to, you don't have to remember your dreams. You probably still are dreaming.
And when you are dreaming, though, that's REM sleep?
Usually. Not all dreaming happens in REM, but for the most part, it's usually in the REM sleep, yeah.
And
the REM, there's more REM sleep that happens in the second half of your sleep, more deep sleep in the first half of your sleep. So you tend to dream more in the second half of your sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have deep sleep first?
Most people have more deep sleep. It goes in cycles. You cycle through deep and REM and the different light, deep REM. So your body cycles through all these stages of sleep throughout the night. But for the most part, the deep sleep cycles tend to be longer at the beginning of the night, and the REM sleep cycles tend to be longer in the second part of the night.
Huh. Interesting. And for somebody this was me, and you wrote about it in the book too, I will fall asleep and wake up, fall asleep, wake up, fall asleep, wake up, probably 3 times, sometimes 5 times in a night. That's been my thing. And I know it's because I'm violating so many of the things that you said, and I'm going to try to put them in check. But you were saying that that's not as bad as, say, not being able to fall asleep at all.
Yeah, I think if you're waking up and going back to sleep fairly easily, it's not the end of the world, because your body is cycling through all these different stages. If you waking up and struggling to go back to sleep, that's a bigger problem.
Yeah, no.
And then you've got to look to see why that's happening.
I think, when I see that list, it's really a bit frightening that those 5 things. And I think for a lot of women, the hormonal and the stress, and then on top of it, everyone, not everyone, but most people, the nutrition, we're not doing what we should be doing.
Yeah, and I think that was the point of the book, not to scare people, maybe to scare them a little bit to make the changes, because there's so many little changes that one can make it'll help one sleep better.
Well, I think the opening quote, I take it like this. I don't think it should scare anyone. I think it's inspiring to know that if we can work on our sleep, then that's the first step to obesity and anxiety and, and all the other things that either are plaguing us or will plague us. So I think I look at it as an inspiration because, it's not that hard 6 o'clock to fast till 10 in the morning. Listen, I know we'd all like to. My thing, Doc. And if Maria were here, she would be making fun of me. But like, I like to eat cereal.
I was thinking it the whole time
as I'm watching a really bad reality show late at night. But I do know that when I don't do that, I feel better. When I do that, I wake up, my body's hot because of all the sugar, from the bad carbs. I get it. It makes sense. It really does.
Dr. Lipman, I want to know. I like to ask our guests what their self-care non-negotiables are. And obviously, one of yours would be sleep. But how many hours do you have to get to function? Like, what's your non-negotiable? I'm out.
Sorry, what was it? I was just...
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was just saying I like to ask all of our guests what their self-care non-negotiables are. And I'm guessing, obviously, one of yours would be sleep. So what is it for
not.
you? Maybe
not. So basically, what are the things in your life that no matter what, you are going to apply to take care? I feel like
sleep would definitely be one,
to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sleep. I try to go to bed by 9:30 every night. I mean, I used to joke that that's what old people do, but that's what, I find that is really helpful when I'm sort of go to sleep by 9:30 because I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. I try and meditate every morning. I wish I would exercise more. I try exercises, but sometimes I can't or I don't. I get lazy. I try eat as little sugar as possible. I fast almost every night, so I'll eat dinner by, like tonight, which was particularly early, but I'll usually done with dinner by 6, and then I won't have anything to eat before 10, 11 the next day. So my non-negotiables would be probably fasting, prioritizing sleep, meditating, and then, just trying to treat people the way I'd like to be treated.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. I mean, amen to that.
Amen to that.
There was...
laugh, have some fun with it.
Right? That's so important. So, the other thing, to inspire people is how much the lack of sleep will age you.
Yeah.
Right? In your body, your looks, everything.
Absolutely. I think that's, because I just had a book come out on aging when I was on the show. The connection between sleep and aging is huge. Probably one of the best things you can do to age well is pay more attention to sleep. Prioritize your sleep. If you want to age well, prioritize your sleep, period.
And again, something it's a lot easier to do than some of the other things that we need to do. I mean, I understand willpower is involved with food and the other things, but sleep is something, I think that we can all do, and we all need to fight to do more of it. Again, I referenced my wife, Maria, doesn't sleep enough, and I'm always happy when she does because I know how important it is.
Just tell her how crucial it is. And it's an easy fix. It's something, it's you're letting your body do all the work. You're just laying back, going to sleep, and then your body's doing all this great work.
Right. Doctor, can some people genetically need less sleep?
I think that is the case. I mean, I was trying to look at, this comes up all the time, and I get told all the time by many people, especially New Yorkers, they just don't need enough sleep. I would say for the most part, from what I've found, that's not true. Most of us need at least 7 hours, but there's a small percentage of people that can function well and do just fine with less sleep. But it's not a particularly large percentage.
Right. Yeah, I think because it's too bad because, when I think of my dad, he didn't sleep much. And I think of Maria's mother, who's got stage 4 brain cancer, didn't sleep much. My dad died of cancer 30 years ago. Lisa is in stage 4, as I just said. I have seen the people who do sleep well and sleep long live longer lives, and the people who have not, I think I've seen them suffer and unfortunately perish.
I would agree with that. Obviously that's anecdotal, but I agree 100% with that. Now, what I would say is the three issues that most people worry about as they get older: their cognitive function or Alzheimer's disease, their heart and heart disease, and cancer. All three are intimately connected with your sleep. So, sleep is, as the title says, better sleep, better you.
Yes, and on that note, Dr. Lipman, thank you once again for coming on our show, sharing all this incredible information. I know we're going to have you on many more times because you're an expert on so many things. And thank you so much for what you're doing for Kelsey. We've been keeping fans abreast of Kelsey's journey, this almost decade-long journey of her stomach issues. But thank you so much. And again, the book is Better Sleep, Better You.
Out tomorrow. Super important
April
book,
13th. You guys. And again, it's just really aspirational in terms of something that, you can control to manifest better health and youth and vitality. Dr. Lipman, thank you so much again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Much appreciated.
You guys, you have to get this book because there is a 21-day reset that Dr. Lipman has in there in the back. And it's 3 weeks, and each week is different. And it's kind of like how you can help yourself. Small baby steps. It's not massive changes. Like I was looking at it and I literally wrote in my notes, I was like, Kevin's going to do this with me. Oh. And it's cool. He talked about the guy he wrote the book with works at Casper and how their office is doing the sleep reset together. So everyone's like encouraging one another. They're talking about it. So it's a really cool thing.
I'm in.
It's such a healthy, positive.
Well, a lot of the stuff seems actually
definitely doable.
Pretty attainable. Yeah. And for 21 straight days, I can do it. And by the way, like shout out to, if it's Casper, I love how corporations are evolving to realize, it's better business
100%
for them to start thinking of the health of their employees. It was it's a long time coming. Let's hope it keeps going. But yes, I'm in. I'm going to start practicing some of these things. I mean, Stephen, are you on with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Stephen, so for someone like you, right? Like you probably violate a lot of this too.
Yeah, definitely. I try my best, but I really have never been able to get into like the powering down routine. Because my like view on sleep is like, okay, let's do this for 15 more minutes, then I'll stop. Let's do this for 15 more minutes, then I'll stop and go to bed. So there's no like in between. It's like I need to just finish this one last thing, then I'll go into bed.
Yeah.
We should send Stephen a copy of this. Stephen, it's really good. I was like on top of the world after I read it because I feel like you always hear you need more sleep, and you're like, that actually stresses me out. Please stop. But I read this and I was like, dang, I'm going to get more sleep. I'm going to improve my stomach. I'm going to improve my life. And you can totally do it.
Well, Kelsey and Stephen, here's where you're both lucky or fortunate is you can sleep.
Yeah.
See, for me, for years, I couldn't sleep, guys. I would just have insomnia, and then you'd have insomnia, and then go have to lug carnival equipment all over New England, for 20-hour days, and then not be able to sleep. So I'm at a place now where I can finally fall asleep. I think with age, I've gotten, and thank you being with Maria, my anxiety levels have gone down. But luckily, both you guys can fall asleep, and you can keep sleeping. I can't.
Yeah.
I can, like I said to him, I'm a couple hours, I'm up. Back to sleep, couple hours, back up, so I can't get that long. It's very rare. It probably was maybe in the last 20 or 30 years, maybe like twice I had a solid sleep where I just like woke up and it was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Like, wait, what happened? Well, you're both are lucky you can do that. So take advantage of it.
I mean, you're the perfect guinea pig for this 21-day reset. Kevin's going to report back.
I'm in. No, I'm in.
Yeah.
No, I'm in because, I think listen, you guys are young, so when you're young, you think, right. I'll deal with that later. But I'm at 54, being an elderly gentleman. Another year, I think I'm considered elderly in this country, and you
So sad.
And you bet your bottom I'm taking full advantage of my senior discounts, everything.
When my dad turned 55, he was like, we're going to freaking Pancake House or Denny's or whatever because you're on the senior.
I'm so in. But I was going to say, though, but when you think of Alzheimer's and the correlation, that's the one thing that I can deal with anything, any kind of illness that comes, because I've just seen so much of it. Honestly, like I can deal with any of it except that one. Because that would affect everyone around me.
But my grandpa had Alzheimer's, and I'm curious. I'll have to ask my mom if he was a good or bad sleeper. Just like, I don't know. It's just crazy.
I don't know. That's bad because it just, like I said, it affects everyone around you.
Yeah.
And but anyway, so I think but listen, but you're young and you want to stay. Both you and Steven are two, very attractive
healthy
young
broads.
people.
Thank you.
And you want, so just to appeal to your sake of vanity, you want to stay that way and sleep. Sleep is a good way to do it. But then I think, I don't know, it's like everything, you'll get more success by taking that. We just keep learning through this pandemic and through this show that the more rest you take and the more breaks you take, everything mentally and physically all will get better. So anyway, the book, once again, Better Sleep, Better You. And invest in it too. If it's an artificial light you need, get it. If it's the weighted blanket, get it.
Yep.
Having your room cold. That's another thing too. Like, having those windows open sometimes in the winter, guys, you know what? Like little crack there and not bad.
And they talk about that in the book. It was on that quiz. It was like, are your windows closed the whole year? And you say yes, and that's actually a bad thing.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So
So out on Amazon or books are sold tomorrow. It's a good one.
Yeah, it really is.
Good one.
Okay, well, Kelsey, until then, what?
Until then, Kevin, we all should be nice people, make good choices, and be present and sleep well.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.